Good afternoon, guys. Welcome back to my channel. This is Coach DC from All 22 Films. This is going to be a film study look at Declan Doyle's offensive play calls, specifically the under center play action stuff that he used to really shred the Eagles defense. From a schematic standpoint, I think he knew what he was going to get in certain parts of the field with particular personnel groupings and play calls or run action in the backfield. Look, they rolled up 440 yards of total offense, 31 first downs. Obviously, Philly only registered 6. I'm not here to talk about Jesse Minter and Anthony Weaver's defense, but it was obviously overwhelming at times. They averaged 5.8 yards per play, and in fact, the quarterbacks combined to go 30 of 37 passing. The under center play action, I think, is a foundational element of Declan Doyle's scheme. Let's get into the film here. We're going to start off on the second possession. Again, I'm only going to focus on under center play action pass concepts. The run game wasn't necessarily dominant, in particular against the front 6, front 7 for the Eagles. Those guys are really fast and physical, in my opinion. This is a nice play call on the second possession. After a 2-yard run, it's a fake toss to the field. The ball is on the right hash, as you can see. Philly's got their 3-4 or base defensive personnel in. It looks to me like Jihad Campbell might actually be pointing here to the play side. I'm not sure what he sees, but in any case, Hibner's going to flash across a little under route, and after a fake toss to the bottom side of our screen to the field, Huntley is going to boot to the top side. Arnold Ebiketti's trying to get control of him or trying to get to him before he can get rid of the football. Ton of stress on the boundary side inside linebacker, the will linebacker, Jeremiah Trotter, and the boundary side OLB/edge defender, Arnold Ebiketti. Here, simple concept. We didn't need to necessarily have a bunch of wins across the front as far as the offensive line goes to generate yards here or give Tyler Huntley time. Simple concept into the boundary, nets Matthew Hibner a gain of 8 yards. Still on that second possession. In fact, this is the very next snap for the Ravens. It's a 1st and 10, under center from 11 personnel grouping. Philadelphia has matched with their nickel structure, so they've taken one of their defensive linemen off the field, and you get this really nice stretch from the inside linebackers for Philly. I'm talking about these two here, Trotter and Jihad Campbell. I think it's an example of what happened probably a handful of times in the game. Philadelphia's defense didn't seem to, in my opinion, have their coverage schemes synced up between players. So what happens here functionally is you've got a clear out route at the bottom side of the screen. It's Tez Walker. He ran a ton of these clear out routes last night, in my opinion, possibly a little bit too much. But in any case, Jacoby Lane is going to fit off of that, underneath of it, and because you've got this splitting of the inside linebackers, the flat defender, the nickel, and Jeremiah Trotter are both dealing with the release of the tight end down to the bottom side of our screen, the field side, if you will, after the play action by Huntley. Granted, it is a very quick play action. There's no real sell here, in my opinion. But in any case, it's just got a wide open lane for Huntley to throw this football between the inside linebackers. They're expanding longer than just the 10.5 yards apart as I have the screen paused, or as I have the play paused right now. You can see the expansion that you've got. Jihad Campbell matching the running back to the top side of the screen. And then Trotter matching the tight end. Again, it's an 11 personnel group. So the very next snap, after we go 12 personnel, fake the toss and hit Hibner for 8 yards. Play action once again, and we go up top to Jacoby Lane. Kind of a little bit of a jump ball type situation, not necessarily against a defender, but quarterback Tyler Huntley knows that he can get this ball up high, and at 6'4" with great hands, Jacoby Lane will go up and get it. Really nice play call, in my opinion. And actually, I should say, pair of play calls back to back. In this case, to get 2 rookies, Hibner and then Jacoby Lane. Wide open space to run onto. I think Declan Doyle had a great idea of the types of coverages that Philadelphia was going to play, in particular when their nickel defense was on the field. Again, this is not a possession review, nor is it focusing on one particular player. This is the under center play action concepts that Declan Doyle used to take advantage of Vic Fangio's defensive structure. Here you've got their nickel on the field one more time. We've moved forward to the third possession. I should let you know. It's an 11 personnel group, what I call twin slot. So you've got twins to the bottom side of the field, slot to the top side after Hibner finishes his motion, 1 running back in the backfield. Some great design, if you ask me. A couple of things to package here in the beginning, and I will let some of the plays flow through immediately, one time, and then begin my breakdown as we move forward through this video. I did not begin that process until after this play. In any case, you've got a clear out route up at the top side. You guessed it, it says Walker. Right guard pulling, and that's going to occupy the boundary side inside linebacker, the will linebacker. They've taken Jahad Campbell out at this point. I think he only played the first 2 possessions. But 42 is left on an island. Now, when you get the end zone angle, you'll see what he does. I'm talking about this guy right here reacting to the pulling guard by the Ravens. I think it's Emory Jones. In addition, the running back is faking to that side. So you've got 2 different actions, the guard pulling and the running back stepping to the field, that are holding or occupying that inside linebacker, the will linebacker. In addition, the boundary side safety, he read pass because of Matthew Hibner's initial steps to the edge defender. And so now the boundary side safety, he's looking for work from the other side of the field. It doesn't ever show up because it's a screen. The combination of those factors, in my opinion, Hibner briefly blocking into the boundary, the guard pulling, and in addition, the clear out route by the number 1 receiver at the top side of the screen, Tez Walker, like I said before, leaves that inside linebacker, the will linebacker, completely on an island. We're talking about number 42 here. We've got a 3-on-1. This is Vincent, who's actually looking for work from the inside. You could almost call this a 4-on-1. Huge amount of space. Hibner runs onto it, gets 13 yards. Again, it's into the boundary against their nickel structure. So it's away from the nickel DB, the additional defender in a 4-2-5, the additional safety or defensive back, if you will. You can see this is the same play, by the way. Hibner motioning across, and the guard pull is going to hold this will linebacker. In actuality, he's going to step a little bit further in here, but where do you have a defensive breakdown? Well, there's a lot going on the play. I think it's really great design from a Ravens standpoint. Ebiketie is reading this as if he's got to rush the passer, so he's trying like a 2-hand swipe on Hibner, number 1. So he's getting upfield. He's out of the equation. We've subtracted him. Number 2, I think 31 is reading the end man on the line of scrimmage and Hibner. And so at a certain point, he reads pass maybe a little bit too soon. So you can see he's looking to the other side of the field. Trotter is briefly looking to the other side of the field. That's how come there's no inside-out support to help 42 at all. 3-on-1, 4-on-1, whatever you want to call it. Really nice design. Simple concepts. In fact, 2 of these first 3 plays that I'm showing you are incredibly simple, right? You've got the fake toss play action to Hibner into the boundary on the second possession after a very short, unsuccessful run. In fact, if you recall, that was a 2nd and 8. And here you've got 11 personnel. Fangio is on the field at this time at quarterback, I should note. 11 personnel, tight end screen into the boundary. Another big gain, this one for 13. All right, so I was tracking in some of the comment sections for recent videos that people asked me to let the play run the first time through so they could see it and get some idea, and that makes perfect sense. I'm going to try to do that with the Once Sports Analyser. So here we go. At the bottom of the screen, we've got Jacoby Lane and Tez Walker lined up together, almost as kind of stacked twins, and Fangio just walks up and snaps the ball. Now, that pause that I put there at the beginning kind of removes some of that from you. In the next iteration of this play, I'm going to go through it twice. I'll show you what I'm talking about. I think this is very similar to stuff that Jared Goff did under Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams sometimes last year. Basically, were it not for the on-screen graphics that I'm showing you right now, the blue line indicating that the ball is on the left hash, as well as some of the information that we've got here. You can tell we've switched to the second quarter because we're on to the 4th possession. It's 12 personnel broken bunch. When the quarterback does this in the Ben Johnson system, or what I perceive to be somewhat synonymous Declan Doyle, they're scanning the defense as they're walking up to the line because they plan on snapping the ball quickly. Again, I'm going to give you a couple of iterations of this play. The first time through is this just to show you, that Tez Walker and Jacoby Lane are packaged together down here at the bottom side of the screen. Safety actually falls down on that side for the Eagles, and I'll point that out to you on the second time that we run through this. So broken bunch, first of all, it's a great formation. One of the foundational plays is what I call wind back zone. I did a video on it maybe 3 weeks ago. It's where the running back veers to the boundary initially, and then he's designed to bring this back to the field. And it's because they're doing multiple things. That the tackle will step out to the edge defender, tight end insert inside and go get the field side inside linebacker. Philadelphia is kind of set up for the wideback zone, in my opinion. They're in their base 3-4 structure. Fangio was matching 12 personnel with Hibner and Cuevas on the field from a base defensive standpoint. 3-4, 3 down linemen, 2 inside linebackers, 2 OLBs. Here's the routes that we're getting. Jacoby Lane this time is basically the clear out to the middle of the field, and then Walker, the dig-ish type concept. Something to point out and make you aware of as far as the tight ends in this offense. So Hibner is releasing late, but track where that's actually Cuevas, my apologies, but track where he comes from. So he's at the bottom side of our screen, right-hand side of the offense. And then what he's doing is reading the edge defender or whether the edge defender has broke free from the other tight end. Again, 12 personnel group. So Hibner initially would deal with this tight end. If he loses and needs help, then Cuevas would sit and help, whether it was to the inside or the outside. It's a read. Those guys recognize, okay, there's no help. The OLB actually didn't blitz at all. And so I'm going to release underneath. Keep that in mind later on in this video. You'll see Hibner get a catch on that same concept. Let me pull this back a little bit and you can see the safety fall down. He's spot shadowed or magnified on the 3 o'clock position on your screen, the right-hand side. Fagnano is clearly looking for this route and this route only. Jacoby Lane is occupying the backside safety. Walker running onto that space. Philadelphia put themselves in a little bit of a bad spot here, if you ask me, by walking up one of the inside linebackers, 42, and then apexing an outside linebacker / edge defender. As a result of that, once again, you have the splitting nature of the remaining linebackers. Trotter working to his right, the top side of our screen. 77 expanding to match the potential of the running back into the flats. And then we're going to throw in between that vacated space. Happen consistently. Just in this video, I'm going to show it to you 3 different times. Let's give you the end zone angle of the same play. I've got Jeremiah Trotter, who played really well, especially early against the run. Perhaps a couple of breakdowns in pass coverage, but you never know who's responsible when 2 defenders end up in the same spot. So in any case, here's the pass pro design. Hibner is going to deal with an edge defender after stepping down, and that's what I have illustrated by that orange line on the left-hand side of our screen. He's going to step down, and there's no pressure in that gap between him and Vincent. So he's going to peel back to the outside to get to the edge defender. Technically, it's an inside linebacker, 42. Cuevas is reading all of that, and since he doesn't have any work, I'm talking about 85 flashing all the way across the screen here. Hopefully this video quality isn't too jittery for you guys when I scrub back and forth like that. Because Hibner doesn't need help, Cuevas can release. So it's a really cool added element, or layer, to the play-action pass concepts that we're going to see under Declan Doyle. Again, very Ben Johnson-esque. I don't know if Sean Payton, has those types of things in his offense and utilizes them a ton. I'm not as familiar with his scheme as I am with Ben Johnson. But in any case, you can see Fagnano's got a great platform to throw from. This safety had fallen down. You guys got an idea of his, you got perspective on his feet. OLB, who was apexed. Trotter has also stepped the wrong way as far as where the play ends up going, but he's looking for play action from an inside linebacker standpoint. You have your back turned oftentimes to the routes. You have to turn and pick them up visually, confirm where they're coming from. So you've got the OLB expanded, Trotter widened up. Look at all the space between those 2 guys for the dig by Walker to fit onto. Again, it helps out that the safety fell down. It's a great concept. Again, I got some recommendations in the comment section from Lions videos to try to let the play run the first time through as much as possible. And so this is my attempt to do that. It'll probably make the breakdown of each individual play last longer because I'll go through 2 or perhaps 3 times. All right, we moved later into the second quarter, the 5th possession. In fact, I think this is the drive that culminates with the interception by Keely Ringo, which I actually will show here in this video because it did occur from an under-center platform. In any case, the first time through here, Surratt's up top with Xavier Gilroy, and we do have a blitzing inside linebacker that's picked up. It's a great job, if you ask me, by Surratt. This little shake somewhere near the top of his route, or just as he gets to the top of his route. Obviously, he's the guy that I have magnified or spot shadowed at the top of the screen. You can see he kind of pulls off head fake to the left, and then another one back to the right, which would be to the bottom of our screen. That one kind of shakes loose this DB who's got hands on. No idea if he's grabbing or not, but he gets called for it. No idea how much he's grabbing or not. Sliding catch from Surratt. Like I said, the suggestion I got from people in the comment section was to let the plays run through as much as possible the first time. Kind of trying to do that, but still stay within the parameters of what I have to in order to show this film on YouTube. So 11 personnel group. Like I said, it was a 1st and 15. I think we had a false start the snap before. So the tight end down the bottom is Cuevas. Running back in the backfield. Fantastic job of picking up this blitz. Don't really have much to say about our offensive line in this video. Voorhees, really poor look here from a left guard standpoint. It's Trotter once again. A little bit of a swim through move, but the running back picks it up extremely well. I noted that last night while watching the game live. I'm not sure if you guys picked it up or not, but really great job in pass pro there of assisting. Vincent, to me, looked like a pretty good rep here. I felt like he got more comfortable as the game went on. But in any case, look at the funnel nature that you have of these two routes. This is very similar to stuff that the Lions did under Ben Johnson and still do, in fact, with Amon-Ra St. Brown. No, I'm not trying to say that Elijah Surratt is a St. Brown clone or anything like that. But this funneled nature of a release, whereby two receivers are going through the same lane, if you will, for lack of a better word. It's a great concept, in my opinion, from a pass pro standpoint. The running back did a great job of making up for Voorhees' mistake. It's Trotter once again on the blitz. You can see the little swim that he gives Voorhees. Just don't think that we were nearly as sharp at the interior offensive line position as many other people do. But, I'll have a video coming out to break some of that down. I just haven't had a chance to watch all of the film from the end zone angle. Great catch by Surratt. Perhaps this throw could, be a little bit further out in this direction from a Fangio standpoint. The DB was called for a DPI/hold on the play. Really cool concept that we're going to see a lot of in 2026. Under center play action with receivers who are stacked and kind of a funneled release where they're going through the same lane the first 2 to 2.5 seconds after the snap. All right, this will be later on that same possession. The Eagles are matching our 11 personnel group with their nickel, and in fact, they mug these guys up, one of which is Trotter, and basically threaten to blitz both through the A-gaps. I'm going to let this one flow through. Like I said, it's a 2nd and 5, 11 personnel bunch, and Surratt is the recipient here. 7-yard gain down to the bottom side of the screen. Really quick from a release perspective by the quarterback, in my opinion. Once he realizes, that he's got space for Surratt. Surratt, however, does a nice job, I think, selling this initially. Again, you've got a run action here to the side, and the offensive line's working all in that direction. I will give you the end zone angle here in a moment. Cuevas helps seal the edge, and then Surratt released like he wasn't going to run a route, like he wasn't going to threaten the DB at all, and then puts his foot in the ground, jumps out to the flats. No, I will not have Surratt's fumble in here. It's not like I'm trying to hide it or anything. Everyone saw it. But it didn't occur from an under center play action standpoint. That's the entirety of what I'm focusing on here. Same play from the end zone angle. Again, we're on the 5th possession. It's the one that I think culminates with the interception by Keely Ringo. So the Eagles have an A-gap, 2-eye type technique here. And then he'll step out to a B-gap defender, 3 technique, if you will. And they walk both inside linebackers up to threaten us with that blitz. The play action boot from a quarterback standpoint is going this way, so naturally the run action goes in the opposite direction. In this case, it's Randall, who I thought looked pretty good. We're pulling as many defenders as possible in that direction. The left-hand side of our screen, the right-hand side for the Philadelphia Eagles defense. Cuevas is helping seal the edge right there. Edge defender for the Eagles, 77. Big, bulky, strong-looking guy dropping out in the flats, or possibly supposed to drop out in the flats, ends up being a relatively easy completion from an NFL standpoint. But watch the torque on Fangio's body as he throws this football. It's really cool. I mean, he's a right-handed quarterback going to his right, almost throwing it like a second baseman, moving to his right, trying to get the ball back to the first baseman across his body. This one's not across his body. He's going with the grain or the momentum that he had. As a right-handed quarterback, play-action boot, most of the time, is going to be back to your right. This one's going to be the interception from Ringo to culminate our 5th possession, which I think was 9 plays, 84 yards. Looked like we were going to go up 14-0 late in the second quarter. Poor decision, I think, by Fangio here. We're inside of 30 seconds. I think we've got 2 or maybe even 3 timeouts left, and it's a 1st and goal. We'll let this one flow through, and then I'll talk about it a little bit more and maybe break it down. It's a fast to the flats or running back cheat play. So the running back is going at the same direction as the quarterback, Fangio. I call it a cheat play because the offensive line is working in one direction. And at the NFL, college level, high level, high school, most inside linebackers are reading offensive linemen, so they'll step in this direction. The difference is the running back is going opposite. So he's going opposite of the offensive lineman. But that's not the only reason I call it a cheat play. In addition, the quarterback is reverse pivoting, but there's no way to hand this ball off to the running back because there's too much space between them. But nonetheless, it works. It's a great red zone play, oftentimes used on 4th down. Spectacular interception by Ringo, who had just committed a DPI, I think on Guillory the snap before, tracking across the formation. From this angle, sure does look like Guillory's open. I think if we throw this ball at any time, even soon, I think Ringo's going to be able to undercut it. I believe that he's got a great idea of what's happening in the middle of this play, just super awareness, and he's looking for the undercut. I'm not sure that Guillory's going to be able to outfight him from an athletic standpoint and get inside position at all. Super play by a guy who's been, much maligned, but from Eagles fan base standpoint, hasn't lived up to expectations as far as what he was his last year at Georgia. Same play from the end zone angle here. Here's what I'm talking about. The offensive line working to the left, the running back working opposite. No possibility to hand this football off. There's just too much space between the quarterback and the running back. The defensive tackle who's spot shadowed is the guy who gets the pressure. In fact, probably credited with a quarterback hit. You can see Ringo tracking all the way across with Guillory. Great interception. It looked like he caught almost like the middle of the football or even the back half of it, in my opinion. These under center play action concepts, I'm not sure that this one necessarily counts as play action. I mean, the ball is extended to display a run fake, but in my opinion, there's no real threat of a run action. The run action that's trying to be sold is the offensive lineman working all to their left. So when I talked about this in the reaction video last night late, which if you haven't checked out, I'll link it up here in the description. Please take a listen. It is somewhat lengthy. I think it ends up being 30 minutes. I didn't classify this as play action initially, but I wanted to include it in this video because it is under center. The ball is extended. We're trying to make it look like a run play from a quarterback and offensive line standpoint, even though there's no mesh or no connection, physical contact between the running back and the football, which the quarterback had in his hands the whole time. Great play from Ringo, in my opinion. A poor decision from Fangio that I think he'd like to have back. This will be the last play that I break down. We're obviously out of explosives here. There's one additional play action concept from under center that I could show. I think it was a 6 or a 7 yard game, but this will be the last one that I talk about and break down here. Again, it's a 2nd and 8. It's on the 6th possession. We're into the 3rd quarter. There were a lot of direct flow run concepts that just didn't work. I mean, Philly's front 6, front 7, which is what we've got here, because we're in a 12 personnel group. Their front 6, front 7, especially early in the game, really gave us difficulties trying to block them up front and create running lanes for Randall or whoever else was back there in the backfield. We had a number of 2 or 3 yard gains. In any case, it's a 12 personnel group. Like I said, Hibner at the top, Cuevas at the bottom, and I think Hibner is once again reading whether the other tight end, Cuevas, has trouble with the edge defender or not. In this case, he does not. 77 does actually get to the quarterback late and deliver a blow, but initially, Hibner's reading, okay, I can release. And that's the whole point. I think we're adding another layer to the play action concepts from under center because we're giving the quarterback another outlet that emanates late. And that's an important facet that I used to talk about with Lions content as far as Ben Johnson goes. These linebackers stepping with the run action perhaps, and then oftentimes they have to turn their back and get back out in their pass drop. Now, that's not exactly what's happening here. I'm just letting you know we're going to see these concepts a ton, and that dynamic that I just talked about is going to stretch or force the second-level defenders, inside linebackers, to get depth. We're going to have options to throw it underneath. Sam Laporta for a couple of years while Ben Johnson was there, 23 his rookie year, and 24 had a number of catches like this, where you've got some type of routes deeper down the field. The inside linebackers off the play action have gotten depth, the requisite depth they need, and then completed to Laporta underneath. Really cool concept, looks extremely similar to Ben Johnson stuff that he ran in Detroit. This is the same play. I'm going to show it to you one more time. If I didn't let the plays flow through enough for you initially, my apologies for that. But what I'm talking about here is the delayed release of this tight end after reading or ensuring that the other tight end does not need help with the edge defender. In this case, that edge defender 77, like I showed before, does actually get a quarterback hit just after the ball is released. Philly's pretty much got everything else covered, right? These two safeties dealing with this potential route here. Both this inside linebacker and this outside corner are looking for this route from the other side of the field. I think that's Dayton Wade. And as a result, Fangio takes the underneath route, the route that's underneath the zone. In this case, it's Hibner. It's a great concept. By no means am I saying this stuff is unstoppable, but I think that Declan Doyle had a great idea of how to attack the Vic Fangio structure. In particular, their nickel defense. Now, this is not their nickel. This is their base 3-4 structure. The under center play action was a huge part, if you ask me, of our quarterbacks going 30 of 37 passing last night. Now, it should be said, it's not like we're blowing those guys out of the water on the first two possessions. In fact, in my reaction video last night, I spent a significant amount of time being critical of our offensive line and our inability to get things done up front on that second possession. In fact, the loop field goal, which was a poor effort by him, that ball went right immediately, was made slightly more difficult by the fact that we had two really bad plays on the previous two snaps. Emory Jones basically getting beat by Ty Robinson, the backup defensive tackle for the Eagles. 7-0 at the half. Could have obviously been 10-0 or maybe 14-0. The decision by Fangio. You have to give credit to Ringo for the interception, certainly. But 30 of 37 passing, 7.5 yards per pass, 142 rushing yards on 36 attempts. Those numbers fit perfectly with our personnel and what we want to do. Maybe the 37 passes in a regular season game, we wouldn't get to that number, possibly, if our defense was pitching a shutout like they were until Cole Payton came in the game. Vic Fangio's a great defensive coordinator. He's accomplished a lot in this league. People give him credit, perhaps too much so at times, for inventing certain coverages that were really there 30, 40, 50 years ago, but he kind of reconfigured and applied different names to them. But having said that, man, for Declan Doyle to go out there in his first game and find something that was working, like this, under center play action, a classic traditional concept, I think says a lot about the type of guy that we've got there. Calling plays, coordinating this offense. We'll see what it looks like next week, in the second game. I believe it's against the Vikings. Their defense obviously headed up by Brian Flores, someone that I think the world of. Declan Doyle, first two games calling plays in the preseason. One against Vic Fangio, the second against Brian Flores. It doesn't get any more challenging than that, in my opinion, at least in the preseason, right? I know the games are obviously different here, different players out on the field. So we'll find out next week if he can come out here and find a way to exploit, attack a defensive structure that's obviously going to be multiple. It's possible that Doyle falls under the same umbrella as Ben Johnson. And to a lesser extent, a couple of other offensive coordinators in the NFL, one of which is Clint Kubiak, who, of course, now is a head coach with the Raiders. And that's this. Guys who understand what coverage you're probably going to be in on a particular snap. 2nd and 8, 11 personnel, ball on the negative 12-yard line. They think or have a pretty good idea of what coverage you are and what coverages you are not going to be in. And that plays a huge factor in my opinion, in helping you pick out which concept to call. Increasingly last night, especially early, these under center play action concepts, they were our best weapon. The young wide receivers had an impact. Jacoby Lane's first touchdown was in shotgun formation, 3rd and 5, right? Backside little in cut, if you will, against man free. Keely Ringo playing soft or off coverage against a stacked Twins alignment. So his reaction was slow, to be honest with you. But early on, those under center play action concepts, they were our staple. They were our fallback plan, and they worked to perfection. In my reaction video, I showed a picture Of the data that we tracked, 8 play action concepts from under center produced 98 yards, so just over 12 yards per play. Did not include the Keely Ringo interception in there, like I said, for obvious reasons, but if you want to, go ahead and do so. Great night of Ravens football overall. There's a lot to say about the defense. I didn't want to cover it in this video. You guys more than welcome to let me know what you think of my thoughts here in the comment section, the plays that I picked to illustrate my points here as far as the what I think was the overriding factor in this offense being productive. The under center play action, averaging over 12 yards per play, really boosts our numbers. We did get to 142 on the ground, but that was 3.9 yards per rush. Declan Doyle, great start, in my opinion. You guys, let me know what you think of his play calls, the under center stuff that I showed in the comment section. And finally, if you think other Ravens fans would enjoy this film study look at the Ravens' first offensive explosion, only 24 points, but 440 yards, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach. Appreciate you guys' time.